Check, check, check. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we got a big non-farm payroll number coming up. It's going to give us the unemployment numbers and a lot of other data points to go with it. It's going to be a big number. Last month, we had a spike up on unemployment. As of right now, they are anticipating a down tick on the unemployment number. So 4.6 is what we got last time we got the news. And they're anticipating a 4.5. So a 0.1% move up or down, I don't think would be too brutal. Obviously, if we get like a 4.7 or a 4.8, that could be extremely brutal. But we'll see what happens. The market's going to do what it's going to do, right? There's no way we can predict what's going to happen. But anyways, we do have some things to look at here. So in terms of Bitcoin, you've been testing support for 2 days now. We go out to the daily time frame real quick. You can clearly see that you have been testing the daily 21 exponential moving average. Yesterday we got down into it and then bounced back up, closed nicely on the day. That's good. Would have been better if it would have been a hammer candle, and it wasn't. So it is what it is. And today you're trading as an inside day, right? Basically smack dab in the middle of the range. You're trading at the December open, which objectively speaking was resistance since we lost it here on December the 12th. You were not able to close a single day back above that price until we broke above it here, closed above it, and got 2 days of upside continuation. So objectively speaking, this would be support. With that 21 exponential moving average being under it, that is why we're seeing a difficult breakdown. The bulls are literally loading up here. If I pull up the RSI, which is the momentum oscillator, it shows you that the bulls were able to get it broken back above the bullish momentum point, which is good. You can see we lost it here in early October when it broke down. We had that black swan event. That's when we lost it. We briefly recovered it here and lost it. And since then, you've not been able to get back until now. So the question is this breakout, or is this move up attempting to break out legit? Well, they got to hold it here. And today is Friday. It's the last day of the first trading week of the year, first full trading week of the year. As long as you're not closing dailies back under this, overall, I think Bitcoin is good. Now, with that being said, it looks like it's a bear flag on a larger time frame chart. I posted just the line chart for the thumbnail. I mean, you can clearly see it. It looks like a bear flag. Okay, so with that being said, technical patterns don't always play out. They can, and that's what we're kind of positioned for. It's not that we want Bitcoin to break down. It's that we have to protect our Bitcoin long positioning. So essentially, we have shorted the December high, and we're still holding that short. Now, as far as today's price action goes with everything that we got, it's hard for me to get bearish right here because you're in support. And ever since I've been doing this YouTube channel, I've been saying, don't short at support. And I truly believe that statement is true. You really shouldn't be looking for fresh short positions here today. However, if you're just looking for a scalp, you're trying to participate inside of the daily range and you're just looking to gain maybe 0.5%, 1% or something like that, then obviously you can take shorts here. We tested it yesterday. It was an absolute failure. We did get some upside continuation after putting in a bullish engulfing 4-hour candle, and that support level has still held at this point. So on the near term, it looks weaker. So if I'm looking at this on like the weekly time frame, right? Just the weekly. I don't care about anything else that's happened this year or anything. Just this week. What have we done? We set a early week high and then instantly rejected that price and started to move lower. We bounced off of the weekly open until it broke. That was also trying to act as support. You broke that, you lost that, then you set the weekly low. And since then, you've not really been able to get away from that weekly low. Though non-farm payrolls could be used to push price back down, or they could be used to buy. you're literally at the weekly low. If you look at last week's range, you're holding the midpoint of last week's range. So it looks constructive on both the daily time frame and, the near term, but it just feels weaker because it's not able to get back and close above that weekly open. And I would have loved to seen that happen yesterday, because yesterday is when we saw the strength come in, but the strength dried up. It literally dried up. So the sellers are here, and that is resistance. So if you are looking for shorts, I wouldn't want to see it get back up here today. If I was looking to be short on Bitcoin today, I would want to see Bitcoin fail right here, or at a very minimum up here. So we're looking at Pingu right here. I'm going to take a short on it right here, right now. Sorry, that was an alert and I gotta take it. Get over there. Pingu. Okay, with a tight stop. Okay, infilled, put stop. Just give me 1 second. All right. Very tight stop. It's going to be very volatile. It's a little bit early to get in. That's why I'm putting a very tight stop, because it's going to break loose here in 8 minutes. It's either going to dump or it's going to pop. And there really is no good way to get involved on that. But anyways, like I was saying about Bitcoin, if I was looking for the short, I would not want to see it get much higher than this for the short entry. However, I could potentially look for a short entry as high as there, and only if, and I mean only if, it literally tags that level with a chef's kiss and bounces back under. That is it. That's the only way I could short it. Now, if that played out, I think you could take the short. You have objective resistance above you. You're below the weekly open. You're negative on the week. And if we look at this week's price action, or I'll do you one better. If we look at this year's price action, every candle that has been printed in this yearly range, and we pull up a volume profile, but since we're only looking at the yearly range, then this could be considered a yearly session volume profile, or a January session volume profile. If I pull this up, you can see that the POC, which is mighty, I might add, has literally knocked the top off of those 4-hour candles. This is why I'm saying I could only take a short today on Bitcoin if it got up to this 4-hour supply zone with a chef's kiss and drop. If you're trading above that, I don't want to be in a short, because I think you're going to break back above the weekly open, and I think you're probably going to see a larger expansion, maybe as high today as 92,141. And they could use the volatility of the newsprint that we're getting ready to get to do that. Or vice versa. They could use the volatility of the newsprint to throw it up into this level and then reverse it, as that would stop out pretty much anybody that's gotten short since the London session open, as you will have, after this candle closes, 8 hours of data here. So that's what I'm looking at. I mean, I am going to, instead of short this, I already have a short position on from up here, so I'm not going to lower my cost basis or take another trade on this. I'll just leave that short open and close it. If today closes back above the week open, I will close that short out, because I think it will get stopped out either on the weekend or next week. All right. But it has to close today back above this level. It has to be a very good, strong, bullish move off of support and a strong close above. That's what I want to see. So as long as price is trading under 91,193, I would have a very near-term short side bias. So with that being said, I was looking at Fartcoin for this trade, and it could still be valid for the trade. We did take a short on Fartcoin yesterday at the week open. Clearly that trade failed. This is what we call chop slop. So you got a clear objective level that you want to be short from, and then price just trades above it, and then below it, and then back above it, and then below it, and back above it. That is chop. This level is forcing traders to put liquidity into the market. When price is below it, people are sellers. When price is above it, people are buyers. So it's literally just generating liquidity here. When that liquidity gets exhausted, whoever wins, that's the direction I would expect price to retrace in or reprice to. So if you're wanting to short Fartcoin, does the analysis still fit? The deltas are bullish. So on the very near term, it's slight bullish delta. So you could see a breakout, right? Other than that, like if we look at the same analysis, if we go out to the 4-hour time frame, look at just 2026, we're still above the week open, so it looks bullish here. It looks like support is held. You are building in higher lows. This was a lower low, but it closed as a bullish engulfing. So I mean, as of this, it looks like it's going to go up, right? Because of that bullish engulfing. But if you reject that swing high and drop, you could look for that short trade. Now, if we pull up the same thing, look at the entire month's range, you will notice something slightly different here on Fartcoin. The POC for the monthly range is right here. So that is, of course, basically what is stopping this from breaking down as of right now, right? I'm not saying that it can't break down. It could, but if it did break down, it would be a sizable move more than likely. But as of right now, it's holding a support. And then Pingu, the one I just took, same scenario. We look at only this year's range. You can see how that POC is setting just above. You are, however, on Pingu above the monthly and weekly VWAPs. You are also, let me see here. I don't want to speak before I know for sure. Yeah, okay, so you have that. So at least on Pingu, you're under the weekly open. So there's not any real clear, like obvious setup today. It is the end of the week too, so there's that. Your weekly range is pretty much already in, right? And if I look at this weekly range compared to last week's range, I'm seeing a pullback only. I don't really have a huge bearish bias on this setup. This would be a buying op for me usually. You're already above the daily 21. You're above basically everything that I need you to be above for me to even start thinking about buying daily ranges. So the fact that you're above this too could be a buying op. It is what it is, right? So yeah, you have to decide what you want to do for yourself, obviously. And we got less than 1 minute on the news here. All right, we got 15 seconds. Oh, one last thing. The VIX is up. The VIX broke out like yesterday and closed above last week's highs, and it's gapping back up again today. So here goes the spike to go on ahead and stop me out. And it's pushing. Throw it back on. What is the news? 4.4. So unemployment's right back down. That's kind of good. But it was a miss on non-farm payrolls. There are a lot of other data prints in this, so the market's going to chew it up how it's going to chew it up. So it's a good unemployment print for sure. So that could be good for risk markets. Let's see what the VIX is doing. Yeah, the VIX is gapping down. So Bitcoin could ultimately hold support today. ETH is not liking something, but it could just be, it's just volatility from the news print. This could ultimately be good for Bitcoin. Even if they sell it off, I would be very highly suspect of that, especially if it's down around here when the 9:30 open happens. But we'll see what it does. I don't see anything bad about that news. And like I said, the VIX did drop back under last week's high, which is the level that we're basically looking at. If the VIX is above last week's high, we have a bearish near-term bias. The XY just liquidated. I didn't get my short set up on Euro Aussie. I was watching 174.552 for the liquidation. It didn't do that. You're trading back down to support here. Ethereum back down to support. ES just broke out and rejected. Pingu's doing this. So similar to yesterday, but we're a whole hour early from the 9:30 open. But similarly as to yesterday's setup, if I'm right, I want to see price aggressively move away from the level that I'm focused on. I don't want to see it just piddle paddle here for hours. That means I'm wrong. So the level that I'm just looking at is here. As long as we're trading under it, I'm more than fine with holding a short, but it's a bullish candle. Oh, and Zcash. This got so massively oversold yesterday, and it was due to news. Basically, the whole dev team took off. I guess they were not liking what another group of people were doing, so they're going to do something else, I guess. They're going to move. I did speak with Grok a little bit about this morning, and here's what he had to say. The entire electronic coin company ECC team, which serves as the core developers for Zcash, resigned en masse on January 7th. This was a full staff exodus, around 25 members, including CEO Josh Sweetheart and Chief Scientist Chelsea Comlo, triggered by a major governance dispute with Bootstrap, the nonprofit board that oversees ECC. So, yeah, they took off, and they're going to do something else called Cash Z Startup. And so I would assume this will ultimately see more sell side pressure because of that, but it got so oversold yesterday that it may trade sideways for a few days, probably over the weekend, and then next week I would be looking to potentially jump on another short on this. As long as it's closing days under its daily 21 exponential moving average, I am more than okay with taking a short on it. DXY has broken out this week. It just did make a fresh week high. It is now pulling back a little bit, so this looks good. That fits our bearish bias on the DXY. But if you look at this on a weekly, it looks like a fresh, clean breakout. So today's trade is going to be extremely important for me moving forward next week. Not this week, next week. So if the dollar does find support somewhere today and stay above 98.74, you're going to have what looks like a pretty legit breakout here. Now, we can look at it on the monthly. If you look at it on the monthly, it's still trading inside December's range. So technically speaking, the dollar could trade all the way up to 99.47 and I would still have a bearish bias on it. It's only if it gets back above that I would be concerned. So obviously the short this week, we did make money on the short early on the week on the dollar, but then that trade ended up getting stopped out on Tuesday as the dollar just literally grinded its ass up all week long. But this was the day that we took the short. We made money, we took our profits, and then we got stopped out here. Now you're trading above that. So it does look like a legit breakout. Obviously, it could fail here. I would like to see it fail here, as that would give me an absolute phenomenal place to look for new risk positions for short side dollar sets next week. I would simply be willing to put a short on at this week's high on the DXY next week. If the dollar trades or closes looking like this, right? The dollar puts in a bearish day or whatever. The dollar continues to push up today and gets up into December, then we're going to have a lot more to talk about when it comes to the dollar. Bitcoin's still holding support here, and the news was decent for risk markets. So if the VIX continues, which it's doing what it's doing here, I would be more bullish going into the New York Open with the news that we have. As long as the VIX looks like this, this is a swing high failure pattern. It did close above it yesterday, but today you gapped up again, stayed under yesterday's high, and are breaking down. So this right here is the super huge thing that it needs to do. It needs to take out yesterday's low. And then I would love to see New York open, and at a bare minimum, the VIX reject this white line again and start to trend down on the day. If that were to happen, I would be bullish Bitcoin for the last day of the week. If the VIX bounces here and gets back above the white line, then I would be bearish. You've got a whole hour to make that decision on what you want to do. Yeah, yesterday was okay. I mean, we're pulling back off the fresh all-time highs. It makes sense, but now it's doing what it usually does. DXY pulling back hard. So the shorts today on probably Fartcoin and Pingu most likely going to get stopped unless it gets faded at the open. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, news was not bad at all. And then the short setup that I'm looking at on Euro Aussie is just, it's bearish, right? We want to be short assets that are weak. This is what you have on the weekly. So it broke down last week, was a fresh breakdown. This week you opened, had a slight push higher, and then it rolled over. So I would anticipate that this closes weak today. As long as it closes under the midpoint, it'll look okay for downside continuation. You've got Q2 of 2025's open right here. That is kind of what is acting as support on the near term. You bounced off of it yesterday. You put in this move up here, and this is a slight rejection. So basically, I was looking to put shorts on if we liquidate this level and drop. I was looking for shorts, but if it wants to drop just after getting above that, I'm fine with it as well. But it has to break this low and continue. If it can't break that low and continue, then I would assume it's probably going to break out to the upside. If the dollar's weak, euro's going to firm up. This is euro versus Australian dollar. Now, if the dollar is weak, Aussie is not in the DXY basket. So Aussie is one of those currencies where you can see what the DXY is doing. It doesn't really matter because the Australian dollar isn't in the DXY basket. Euro is. Euro is a huge part of that DXY basket. So if the dollar stays weak or breaks down today, then that would firm the euro up. I'm only looking for the short. If it can fail below this low, I'm okay with holding it. If it can't, then I would probably bail on that idea, as it is late week. It is late week. And the week did have a nice trending move. Right here is your open. It's just been one-sided. So we were looking for this short last week. We wanted to short it over in here, but we missed it. And then it opened this week. It did not give us an entry. It just literally took off to the downside. This is the first like legit full real pullback to even be able to throw on a new short position since, I don't know, since the week open. Yeah. Now, I do have a short side bias on it as long as this remains to be the fact. So if volume or order flow is bearish, I want to be looking for shorts at swing highs. Yeah, Farcoin kind of holding support here. So we're not seeing that much volatility off the non-farm payroll print. Here is the candle. Yeah. Still looks okay. I like it as long as it's trading above $90,085. But the VIX did bounce ahead of yesterday's low. You're going to do whatever it's going to do whatever it's going to do at the bell. So if it's going to break down and put in a fresh 2-day low, that would be good news for Bitcoin, I think. And then people are always trying to short the S&P. And there's good reasoning for it. I mean, if you look at recession indicators like the 10-year 3-month chart, it's got a 100% hit rate for calling recessions. Well, it's basically in that time slot where you have broken back above positive, and that is generally when a recession happens. The problem is the GDP prints are way too strong for the NBER, which is the Bureau of Economics. Before they can call a recession, they need two negative GDP prints and a few other data points. But we are seeing some things break down. Another chart that Bravos Research did on a video is a good one, but it's an old economic. It's an old thing that people used to look at. I don't know if they're going to be looking at it anymore, but here it is anyway, which is the truck sales and the S&P index. So literally when truck sales topped out in all, the last 3 major recessions that the US had was going into 2000, and then of course the 07-08 GFC, and then the pandemic of 2020. In all scenarios, when truck sales rolls over, 6 months later, the S&P 500 put in a high. Now, this happened every time for these 3 things. And as you can clearly see here now, sorry, I'm not ready. The Epic pin loves to disappear, but you can clearly see that there is a massive discrepancy here, as this thing has been breaking down for a minute and the S&P 500 is going the opposite direction. So is this going to be the same? Is this calling a recession? Is this one indicator calling a recession? I would say maybe, maybe not. I don't know. S&P is expensive, but as long as corporate profits are doing okay, or at least sideways, I think the S&P could stay very bullish. They've been very slow to do rate cuts. The rate cuts have been very slow, and the bond market doesn't like it, or it hasn't been liking it, as the TLT tried to break out on Wednesday or Thursday and failed. Today you're gapping back up a little bit, but I would not be expecting anything out of the TLT for an upside unless you could break at least above last week's high. So as long as you're below last week's high, the trend is down. It's not a strong downtrend, but it is down. But we are at a spot. If you look at the bond market, if you go to say the 2-year yield, look at it here. It has been trending in the right direction, which would be down. That would be with what the Fed is doing. We just don't know how much of the Fed cut is priced in already. But we would expect long-term the Fed to continue to cut, the 2-year to continue to roll over. Roll over. But if we look on the further out on the curve, you're not seeing that. So here, let's look at it on a monthly. Last month, you broke out above the previous month high. That's not good. That's not what market participants want to see. They want to see this going in the opposite direction instead of holding at the highs. This is purely within the normal volatility that the Fed looks at and stuff like that. So they're not freaking out yet. But clearly the long end of the curve, the 10-year, 20-year, and 30-year are all moving in the wrong direction. These should be going down. They're all moving up. So that's kind of what you have going on here with the TLT. It is a more bullish pattern if you look at it as like a descending wedge. This is looked at for bullish breakout potential. These kind of like wedges. But ultimately, anticipating the breakout, we were just early. We were just early on that. So maybe give it some more time or whatnot. But it got so close to doing what I wanted to see. I wasn't getting all excited about it because it was simple for me. As long as we're below 88.06, this is nothing more than just another lower high. And, trends usually do continue. And right now the trend is down. It has been down for the last few months. So 1, 2, this month right here was a bad one because it broke down and closed well under. This month is still early and new, but it doesn't look like you're going up yet. It is very much struggling here. It does feel as if though it is trying to find support, but I would have loved to have seen us make at least a higher weekly high. So for right now, it just doesn't look good. So that's that. MicroStrategy had a nice day yesterday. Bitcoin's going to have to break out today for MicroStrategy to continue to have nice days. Looks pathetic down here, very weak. Bitcoin did move nicely the beginning of the month, but it has not been able to get that continuation. But it is early still. Like I said, as long as you're not like down at last week's open, Bitcoin's price action for the last 2 weeks is more constructive than it is bearish. Now, if you're looking at it in terms of October, then obviously it's bearish. So time frame is going to basically drive narrative. It's going to drive order flow. How people analyze charts will be what dictates how people positioning or are positioning here. But if the banks were soaking up as much Bitcoin as they could on the lows, which I do firmly believe they were, then obviously I think it's going to trend back to the upside. But it could break down, and I have to protect myself from that breakdown. I don't have a bearish bias because the macro doesn't really support a bearish bias, but if the bond market is still breaking, that's not good for risk, in my opinion. But there are other factors too. Obviously, the four-year market cycle theory and all of that stuff, business cycle, liquidity flows, global liquidity flows are on a downturn. And the guy that pretty much is the global liquidity factor or the chart that everybody looks at, he seems to think that it's not going to bottom out or start to even make that turn until late 2026. So if what he's saying is true, or if Bitcoin does track the global liquidity metric, excuse me, there could be more downside this year on Bitcoin, clearly. But price is king. So we will react to what price does. XMR is struck very bullish here and poised for a much larger move higher. It has found a little bit of resistance, but yesterday closed above the midpoint. So that makes it so I can't get super bearish on it here today. Clearly, all the indicators that I use to track bullish and bearish markets are all bullish. You're trading above the weekly and daily 21 exponential moving averages. You're well above the 50 on the daily RSI. You tagged the 50 down here twice, and both times it held. That is a support check and a support hold. You are seeing prices advance to the upside after that support hold. Everything that should have been resistance wasn't. You had a ginormous breakout yesterday. Today, it looks like you're trying to have upside continuation. It doesn't look like a short. However, people will be looking to short swing highs because that's what retail does. If you are looking at that, or if you do think that is the top and it is going to roll over, you have a 4-hour supply zone that held perfectly in the last 4-hour session as you tagged that to perfection and rolled over. But as you can see, you just traded inside the previous 4-hour candles range, slightly outside of it, but the close was back up in here. For this to be a bearish engulfing, you need this close to happen down below the low of the previous candle for it to be a better weakness signal. But on an asset that is clearly poised for the upside breakout, I wouldn't call a bearish engulfing 4-hour candle a good short signal. What I wanted to see yesterday, if I was going to be looking for shorts on XMR, was a swing failure pattern where you put in the higher high swing and then reject that hard. We didn't reject that, or it didn't reject that hard yesterday. Yes, it experienced some volatility up on the highs, but that isn't a rejection, and it definitely isn't a hard rejection. That hard rejection could happen today. I can't see into the future, but I'm less bearish on this with what happened yesterday. So I'm not going to be looking for the short on XMR today. I think really and truly the only thing that if there is a short setup, it's going to be on Pingu or Fartcoin. Bonk already had a pretty nice expansion lower. I mean, it wasn't anything to write home about, but you can see how the deltas were bearish. I mean, it is still under the 50 here. So if it is going to have a bearish expansion, I would want to see that happen at 9:30 or at 10 at the latest. I would want to see price heading in that direction. If it isn't, it's going to shoot any bearish bias in the foot. This is just a constructive normal pullback that typically happens after big bullish moves. Because everybody that missed this are now jumping into this. And that's what causes support. So it looks good for next week. Next week would be looking for longs at this week's low if you don't get a sizable downside expansion today, which we are not getting. On good news, makes sense. Lower unemployment, that looks good for risk. Good morning, says Oxum. What's up, Alex? Trading into a figure, pretty nuts. Yeah, it's not, because I mitigate my risk very, very well. Yeah, you're most of the time you're going to eat a stop, right? 90% of the time, price is going to be so volatile, unless your stop is like 18% wide or something crazy, you're probably going to eat a stop. Occasionally, though, we get the news and price just falls off a cliff. So that's all I was trying to do with that, right? Take it there, and if it falls off a cliff once the news is printed, then it would be a quick, easy $300. But instead, it was a loss of $30. Not bad. I'll take those kind of trades every single time, as the odds are in my favor long term. Right? That's what makes me successful. Good morning, Mr. Tom Kiss. Chef's kiss sound effect is a hard hitter. I just went into the microphone. Grateful for you in 2026. Thank you for being here. Tom in West says, of course, pants check. We do not wear pants in South Florida, so we do not have any pants on today. Beautiful. Now all we gotta do is wait 30 more minutes for the bell. One reason why I don't do every NFP announcement, because it's a whole hour before the New York session. But if you get insane numbers like 3-4 ticks above what was expected, then you will see crazy trading happen before 9:30. But unfortunately today it wasn't a crazy number. It was literally a beat on unemployment. That's good. 4.4. That puts us right back down to where we were. Looks like they did. This was 4.6. So it looks like they did a revision there, maybe. I don't know. Building permits, housing starts. I don't care anything about any of that stuff. But non-farm was a miss. Was a miss from last month and under what was anticipated. So you got a miss there, but a beat on unemployment. We could look at labor participation rate, see if that was, I don't know if that was given out today. It's the same as what it was yesterday. 62.5. Yeah. Markets seem to be taking this news with a grain of salt. That was your non-farm print volatility right there. That candle is the same size as this candle. So not really volatility, not real volatility on the news. And then looking at the S&P, you did have a nice little spike. The dollar did have a nice little downside spike. Excuse me. We can look at that. But it has since been priced right back out. So yeah, that's that liquidation run, and then a slight little drop. Nothing major. It is more volatility than we've seen basically all week in that amount of time, but it's what happens after that matters. Are people positioning for the short side continuation on the dollar today? Or are short side dollars set up, people not participating because you are trading on fresh week highs and you did break out above the previous 3 weeks worth of price action? So if we were going to anticipate dollar bearish positioning for this week, we would not have wanted to see an expansion above that line, right? It's simple. When you look at weekly candles, you can see perfectly how everything plays out. Usually when something is weak, you don't make higher highs, but occasionally you do. Especially in a good trend like this. This was a decent trending move. Each week put in a lower high, lower high, lower high. This week was a inside week. Then you had a small week last week. So this week we were anticipating this to be resistance, and it wasn't. It broke out above it. So that basically shot dollar bearish positioning for this week in the foot. So it will be next week. Do the bears come back, or do the bulls get upside continuation now that they've gotten a fresh higher week high? So yeah, next week's trading could be a little bit more volatile and difficult. There will, if today puts in a downtrending move, like I said earlier, the trade would be to look for shorts of just at or right under this week's high. As if shorts are going to rule today, you would want to see them show back up early next week. It's hard for me to put on a bearish dollar position up here. I liked it better down here. So right now it looks like it wants to go up. It hasn't been a strong up move though, so there's that. But the dollar's in a 6-month range. It hasn't really been trending. It's just bouncing back and forth on these monthly levels. It's like kind of basically all of it's been doing for a very long time. I mean, we're still trading under August's high, but above October's open. No trend. And this move is just tighter inside the December range. As long as you're below this, I think people are going to have a bearish bias. This week, it just wasn't easy setting up that trade. So Ethereum is still range bound. It did have a nice little 30-minute move. Let's go look at ETH real quick on the 30-minute. Had a nice little 30-minute move. So basically, if Ethereum can continue to trade above 30.82, I would have a near-term bullish bias on it. So any pullback into this previous swing low would be a buyable opportunity. That is, you know, if the bulls are going to show up today. We did make a fresh day low on VIX. That is good news. So you have taken out yesterday's low. It's not a bearish engulfing candle because we didn't trade above yesterday's high, but this is a good look. You're back in that weekly range, and that is super important for vol sellers. I'm not selling volatility if it's breaking out, not right during the breakout, right? I want to wait for resistance to show up. Resistance did show up. It showed up right there a few weeks ago's close. Looks like the vol sellers jumped on it there. That wouldn't have been a good enough level for me, but it was for them. So now you're seeing this pullback. As long as this is pulling back and trending lower, I think Bitcoin trends higher. And this is a good constructive look, as I have a more bearish bias on Bitcoin as long as we're trading above 1542 on the VIX. So silver is in the range. Them sellers trying to get it, but they can't hold it down, man. Silver looks like it's going to break out. I would not be selling silver with this look. Weak dollar will also help gold and silver longs today. I'm not trading gold or silver, but if you are, as long as you have dollar weakness today, that could help long scalps. Pingu rejecting, but Pingu's a long, or could be looked at as a long, as low as 11,744. So it really needs to break down below these swing lows here and push for me to feel safe in this short trade. And I don't think that's going to happen with risk markets bullish. It could still happen. Obviously, the crypto market can do its own thing. It's just, I find I have better luck when I take positions in the crypto market that align with the broader markets. So if it's like a broader risk-on move, you're probably better off buying support on Bitcoin, Pingu, Bonk, Fartcoin, stuff like that. Especially if those assets were bullish last week, which they were. Very bullish last week. This is an insane bullish breakout here. Now that doesn't mean that the sellers aren't in the asset. It doesn't mean it won't break down. And next week you could open tag weekly res and fail, and then roll over and make a fresh week low. But with this look, it feels more like people are buying the dip than selling it. Because when the sellers are on something, usually you see pretty good moves lower. It's not like a slow sideways breakdown. It's usually pretty aggressive and severe because fear drives panic. And panic selling is is why we see those big down aggressive moves. This was not a big down aggressive move at all, and the fact that it's been trading sideways for the last couple days suggests that the buyers are propping it up. So if we did break down, I do think it could be a decent breakdown, but I'm not seeing big volumes here that suggest that's going to happen. Even on Bonk, the deltas are like just bleh. It's meh out there. There's no volume. Fartcoin looks better than all of them for the short, at least as far as what price is doing right now. It's also holding higher lows. So you need to break down through here. And support on Fartcoin goes as low as 38.77. So you would need to see a breakdown below that to be safely holding a short position from here. We got 20 minutes, dollar still chopping sideways at November's low. S&P had a nice big 30-minute expansion. So unless the sellers come out swinging on that, it's going to look like upside. That's a pretty sizable breakout. It wasn't just a peekaboo above and a failure. You got an obvious breakout. So that just makes the range to be a buyer larger. But where are we going to open on risk? Let's see. Okay, so this is Thursday's high. So as of right now, you're going to be gapping up above the cash market high. You'll be gapping up right into the top edge of the expected move for the weekly range. So this could keep, even though the news was good, because you're up here at the top edge, I would assume sellers probably be up there. They don't always win. Here's a week where clearly the sellers failed. But other than that, it looks like it has been holding. It's been very, very slow. This was the first full week of trade. And it was kind of slow also. I mean, we gapped up right on the Monday, opened higher. You got 1 day of upside continuation. You've seen continuation upside on Wednesday, but ultimately sellers knocked it down. Yesterday was just a very slow sideways day. Yeah, I would assume if it goes up, it's going to break out. It looks like that. Resistance can hold. Daily res is setting just above the high edge of the expected move, 69.46. You got fresh breakouts on the dollar, fresh week highs on the VIX. The VIX traded pretty much up all week. So Monday, Tuesday was down, then you were up, then you gapped up Wednesday, and you gapped up Thursday. So slight discombobulation there. Ethereum pushed down to that low. So this is where I'd want to see the buyers show up. Fartcoin needs to get under the previous 4-hour swing low. Yeah, this is a little bit deeper than I would have wanted to see it go down if I was buying it. But the fact that it's going down right before the bell is suspect. Very tight range here, right? You're trading inside this breakdown candle's range. And that happened at the London session. So London sellers are still safe, depending on where their stops are. The really aggressive sellers they could be done. But anybody that sold the London session, they're good, right? Their shorts are up here. 2 a.m. is the London session open. And that's where they showed up at. So they're still golden. Coin pushing down, but it's got to get under this. S&P pulling back a little bit violently here. It was a violent move up. It makes sense that it's a violent move back down, as it's just retracing what happened at 8:30. Big spike up, comes right back. What does it do at 9:30 from here? Dollar is moving right back up. I think that is wrong. Let me see something here real quick. Yeah. This will be huge for me. Don't necessarily want to see that. Don't necessarily want to see that for dollar short biases for next week. 1 weekly close above the 21 exponential won't sell it completely. I mean, it won't close the short down completely for me, but I will be hesitant about short positions for next week. They will have to reject at my level. So that's what will need to happen for me to have a short side bias going into next week, if this thing closes above here today. Because this is going to be a huge driver for me. And Zcash, yeah, breaking down. I imagine there will be more sell side on this. You needed to wait for resistance to show itself, and it did show itself. It showed itself right here. So if you're adding to shorts, you got to wait for stuff like that to happen. You can't just blindly sell into the swing highs. At least let resistance show up. Resistance held here, and so far on the new candle open at 7 a.m. has held. But because it got so oversold yesterday, I would imagine this would need to at least get back up to the 50, but it damn near almost did, as right now we're setting at 36 on the RSI on the 4 hour. That's a 40 print. So that could be enough of a pullback for some people. 8 hour, what do we got on that? Yeah, not quite 40. You got up into the 36-ish. So you can clearly see this is support on Zcash. One hour left on this. So if this candle can't close under here, then it could be wanting a higher retracement. Yeah, you're just trading as an inside 8-hour candle. And then finally, daily, it's a fresh breakdown. So maybe a retest on the 50 would be a beautiful place to look for short entries. 469.43 next week, if we could get back up there. I can't imagine people will be as bullish on Zcash without their devs and CEO behind the asset. Now, the thing that I read, the Grok prompt that I read, it did say that this can still perform normal. Like, it won't affect anything that has to do with the inner workings of Zcash. But just the fear that there are no devs or the core devs that built the thing are no longer behind the thing, I figure that will drive more selling. And whether it was the news or whether it was a technical breakdown doesn't really matter. The fact is you have a technical breakdown. You are back under the daily 21. You're still above the weekly 21, so that could still be support. But I think you're going to build in a larger term range in this area for the next few weeks. Yeah, we'll see what it does. Needs to break down for the sellers today. I shorted it the other day, so I'm holding that short. I did add a little bit to it, brought my cost basis down to about the 21 exponential. But it's not a huge position. I'm not like in it balls deep. 20 minutes on the bell. I really think you are on of the best price action analyst YouTubers out there. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate that. I've been doing it for a long time. That's all it is to it. Like, anybody can do what I do. But I thank you for the compliment. Absolutely appreciate that. I feel the same. I laugh at a lot of analysts, a lot of analysis that I see online. And it's not that they can't do it. It's just a lack of knowledge. Once you've been doing it for as long as I've been doing it, you'll get good at it. You'll get good at anything. Anybody can. 10,000 hours makes you a master at anything you do. So far, Bitcoin, everything, just trading sideways here. 10 minutes to the bell. Things look a little weak, but the news was good. And we did make a lower daily low on the VIX. That's going to be important when we get the open here. Now, S&P has broken back under the 830 open. So it is trading lower than it was when you got the non-farm news print. So looking like it's just stopping out those early buyers. But if we look at it in terms, or if I look at it like in terms of larger time frames, you've done nothing majorly here yet. The S&P will be a viable op as low as 6,924. But similar to what Zcash is doing right now. It's just retesting support. It's, if you break down under that, that's obviously what the sellers want here. They want this to break down and close under support. But if it doesn't do that, then those sellers are going to have to wait for another 8-hour session. And some of them might not feel like doing that, as this would have been a profit target if you were just scalping ranges. Right? Same thing as Fartcoin. Like if you're shorting here on Fartcoin, this would have been a profit target. And if you did that, then you're doing just fine. You don't need a large breakdown. As the trade that you were looking for, which is simple, short 41.43, take profits at 39.80, then you're doing your job successfully. And that was a 3.75% move. So there is plenty of movement in that range there to make money consistently. The same scenario, buyers would be looking to buy here, take profits up here. That's why these ranges hold so often and for so long, because that's what people are doing. They are trading these ranges. And it isn't until you exhaust the demand or the supply before the repricing happens. Good stuff. We don't need that because we're going to be moving the chart around. It will fluctuate differently. As far as intraday session volume profile, let's see what that's doing. Yeah, I mean, even this structure even looks okay for upside continuation, because the POC is more close to the bottom edge of the daily range than the top edge. Now, it doesn't mean support will hold down here. Doesn't mean that. But if it doesn't break down, then you have this staring you right in the face. There's been more trades taken here than anywhere else. I wouldn't be a seller here. And neither are other professionals. But I could be a buyer if I was just saying, well, it's above the week open, I can take a long. But that wouldn't be a scalp. That would be like a more or less, I'll throw my stop down at the weekly low and then see what happens after that. Yeah, see, couldn't break under this low. Couldn't even get there yet. Let's move it up to the open. You can see basically sellers are selling here, buyers are buying there. This is their take profit. It's kind of a tight range. I wouldn't be a buyer there, but I would rather be a buyer at the lows. So it isn't this level that Pingu needs to break for me to feel safe in the short. It must get down here. Once you start breaking under that, then it feels a lot safer for that trade. But if it can't even get down below this, then there's no point in eating a full stop. Because it has to in order for the short to work. And S&P bouncing, like I said, be looked at as a buying off as low as there. You can see how the buyer's trying to pick it up from there. The pressure is up. The pressure is up. Here's your weekly VWAP, monthly VWAP. Pressure is clearly up. Pressure isn't up so much on Bitcoin, but it looks like it is. Now, wedging pattern traders are going to be waiting for a breakdown. If you break down under this trend line, then people will be looking for fresh shorts. I don't trade like that. Some do, though. Because it is, I guess, I don't know. I couldn't call that a bear flag. This is just a very tight weekly range. So as long as you're making higher lows, I would be buying higher lows. Or trying to anticipate those higher lows. In theory, I have the short on Bitcoin, so I probably should have been a buyer on ETH as it pushed down into the daily 21. Or we could be a buyer on Barcoin. If it could give me a little bit deeper of a push, maybe we buy Fartcoin today. Since selling it yesterday didn't pan out. Right? Sellers couldn't do anything with it yesterday, and they haven't been able to do anything with it today. There's your day low. That's a higher low. It is lower than this one, but this candle closed as a bullish engulfing, so support is under price. We could buy 39.52 or 39.27 or a fresh day low since we have a short on Pingu. That way, if Pingu gets stopped out, the long on Fartcoin works out. So let's see what happens here. Because remember, we're just trying to lose 30, win 300. That's the goal. I'm pretty sure this looked good for that. It does look good for that. Okay. Yeah, we could do something like that. The question is do we even get down there? Because support is right here. We are 2 minutes from the bell. We are either going to have a downside expansion today or an upside expansion. If you already have a short, you could think about putting on a long. Of course, that will take away from your initial profit target because one of them will be stopped. But it won't be from non-farm. It'll be from just normal trading. All right, 1 minute from the bell. You took new Pingu short after it spiked in FP? Well, yeah. I just didn't get stopped. Here, I'll show you what's going on. So it's just right here. It's all, I mean, I built up a nice window yesterday, so I'm just kind of watching this. It's a really bad entry. So it did get up there, and it is what it is, right? It is a stop. It would have stopped for sure. But I'm thinking about just getting long Fartcoin, but I would like to get long at support, but it's already tagged it and backing away from it. So that low is 39.72. And we have that, so we can do this. So if this makes a new low, it'll fill me. And it should make a new low on the bell. And Farcoin's getting more bearish. I mean, Pingu's getting more bearish. I don't love the idea of buying support. I would much rather buy down here. And this right here, I don't like. So this is where I want to see the VIX reject. If it does, I'll be more than okay with long. It didn't get filled. Yeah, it's, to me, it feels risky there. Oh, it got me. Son of a bitch. I was going to pull it down. That's okay. They're pretty much even. That's, yeah, I kind of, I think this is a better entry, but I just don't know if you'll get filled. It looks like it's going to get down there. It's feeling a little bit heavy coming into the open here. What is Pingu doing right this second? Okay, so Pingu just tagging the open of that, so that's not bad. Okay, we got the bell. 9:33. I didn't have my bell dinger on. Okay, so we're gonna drop this. Now. Okay, I won't feel safe with this short only if it bounces from here. I just won't. Because here's Pingu. Remember, it's got to break under this before I feel comfortable holding the short. That's kind of what we're looking on with Farcoin here, why I'm saying the entry feels more like it would be down here than all the way up there. We'll know. We'll know if it pushes down into here and then fails to push lower as time goes on. S&P pushing up, VIX also pushing up. Yeah, it's anybody's game, man. Let's see what it does here. You're also getting a fresh break back under the 50. But it won't if it doesn't close down in here. See how it's like not even pushing there for some reason? Why won't you just push down there? So you're down there on ETH again. So anybody that bought there on ETH are now stopped. We'll throw one more try on FART because this covers the loss on FART. It won't, obviously, if we miss the fart. 39.56. You can do it. I should have just held fart and not bounced, but it hit 30 bucks. Got out. I can't set bad habits for you guys. And we're gonna miss it. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bail on the Pingu. So here's what Pingu's doing. It's not pushing down into here either. So Fartcoin's bouncing off 4-hour support. Or not bouncing, has bounced from. S&P's all the way back up to highs. I mean, yeah. Still anybody's game. It's still early, but I have more of a bullish bias as long as the VIX is bouncing off that resistance. As long as that is happening, I do want to be holding something long. Of course, then again, you have lagged data there. It's this, watch this. This is not lagged. So you retraced that entire candle and you did it in 10 minutes. So this was probably going to be gone. If it's going to be bullish, I'm going to miss it. I just have to basically bounce this before I get stopped. Everything still looks okay in terms of the Pingu short, but doesn't look great. And I'm not going to be able to fill that. That's a higher high, so we would definitely want to see a higher low. Because it has to, the higher highs and higher lows has to start on the small time frames before the higher highs and higher lows can start on the large time frames. Pingu's still lower highs, lower lows, but it isn't low enough. Let's do this. Stop right here is what? Yeah. I can't chase it anymore, so I'll just exit the Pingu short. If this doesn't fill here. And I don't want to see it drop under this swing low right here. If it drops under that, then I'm probably on the wrong side of Farcoin. Bitcoin is still pushing down. ETH is pushing down too. This makes me very hesitant about wanting to buy Farcoin. But I don't want to miss it if it breaks out. Here, let's just do this. Let's move it right back here, because if it does do that, the stop is going to be brutal. Oh, it didn't do it in time. Okay, so yeah. It's going to be brutal. That's what chasing does to it. And then we can set a stop loss up here too. Oh, no. That way we're golden, because everything else is stop is golden. The Bitcoin short doesn't have to be touched. The Zcash short doesn't have to be touched. It's just these two active today. They have to be touched. Yeah, it is what it is. That lower low is there. Well, that was the original entry, or original preferred entry. So we'll see what it does down at that area, because Ethereum has already smoked it. Ethereum looks like it's trying to make a fresh day low. Bitcoin has to get all the way down to here to make a fresh day low. And this isn't what I want to see the VIX do. Not even close. Not even close. I mean, I do for shorts, but not if I was trying to only get long. If I was trying to only get long, I wouldn't like that. But that's really the level to beat if you're holding Farcoin shorts. And I do know some of the members are. I know one is, especially, at least, right? Not especially, but at least one is. So you want to see it break below this with some steam, then your short position will be in good shape. But price discovery at these big levels, it's usually going to be too late to know if it does break down from it. It's going to be too late. It'd be a larger move. This is, I mean, this low on Pingu's all the way down here. It's into support right now. You could get a lower low on Fartcoin and then it just reverses too. But that's just a good example of bad trading. The bullish entry on Fartcoin, if it's going to be a long today, is right down here. And I should have just let it happen. While it plays price discovery. Dollar is right back up to highs, so it kind of feels as if though the short would work. Oil is breaking out, ripping on highs. So that also kind of fits the short. VIX also above 1551 also fits the short. S&P rejecting the top edge of the expected range for now also fits the short. But all of that could reverse and change direction, and that would totally destroy the short. Bitcoin's fresh day low is here. So ETH's fresh day low is there. Oh, you can't see that, but you're making a fresh day low on ETH right now. So you're probably going to see Fart make a fresh 4-hour low too. It's does it continue? It looks good. That looks good for continuation. This looks good for downside continuation today. This a good breakdown. Yeah. Dollar has not quite made a fresh high yet, but it double topped. Day high on dollar is 99,165, and you just made a high of 138. So you're real close to making a fresh day high on DXY. Fartcoin's still struggling here at support. Price discovery. You make another high, then I'd say Pingu gets stopped out. If you stay under the week open, I like the Pingu short. But same thing. It can't even make a fresh 4-hour low yet. And we're 20 minutes in. VIX day high is what? 1581. Yesterday is 1585. You're above last week's high on the VIX, so that feels like if it can continue to stay above that, I would be okay holding the short. Because you got the fresh breakout yesterday. So if that's going to continue today, I would anticipate S&P does have a down day. It's a difficult place to be because S&P is chopped up, right? You're just chopped up. You're ranging or chopping at the high of the, not the high of the week, but pretty close to it. And the dollar's doing the same thing, chopped up at the high of the week. Oil is literally breaking out up to the upside. Well, it's breaking out of its, what time frame it is? Yeah, it's breaking out. It's breaking out above the weekly high. Yeah, oil has smoked the previous 2 week highs. So you have, you have a potential bullish breakout on oil and the dollar. Yeah, this doesn't look good for support. If it was support, we would want to see upside continuation off that rally. We don't want to see lower lows. Yeah, you got to break down under that. Got to break down under that. Yesterday it screwed us good, man. Used this level as support pretty much once it broke out above it. Chop, 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 and then just chopped it up. We could see it be choppy today here. Still, it is Friday. Got good news on the NFP, so I'm kind of confused as to why the risk markets are selling off. Maybe it has something to do with the oil breakout. I don't know. The setup for me, though, on a technical, like just looking at price and not caring about news or anything like that, is simple. If price can't trade above this, I want to hold shorts. It's that simple. It really is that simple. You have been a downtrending week, but it just has not been a big downtrending week. It has been insignificant lows, to say the least. Yesterday was a bullish reaction off support, but where did those buyers go? Like, they just literally, more of what this is, like literally the same kind of price action that we saw most of December. Didn't even see bullish volume deltas. They were bearish. But the volume is lackluster. For good continuation style trades or continuation style moves, we want to see heavy volumes. This volume would have felt good to hold a short yesterday. But this is a good instance where the volume is showing you one thing and price is doing the opposite. And then dominance is what today? It's down. So dominance, a weak dominance inherently puts a little bit of a bid under alts. Which volume profile indicator do you use? Not SVP, but the long big anchored at the right of the screen. It's just a fixed range volume. So I do use the session volume profile for my daily volume analysis, but for like monthly or weekly volume analysis, it's a fixed range, visible range volume profile, visible range. And that's going to be in the profiles. So go to technicals, profiles, right here, the bottom one. I don't really ever use them that often, but I seen somebody doing it, and I was trying to basically do it in a way that makes it objective. So it only works if you're looking at an objective amount of price. So like a month worth of data from the month open, then it's an objective volume reading. If you have a random number of candles up, it doesn't count. It doesn't work. Like if I have this data pulled up, your POC is probably down here. But just by lining it up, see, it is. POC is down here. But by lining it up to this day as the starting point, that gives you an objective reading on what's actually going on in the month. Now, that does not mean that price can't break out above all this. It just shows you where the heaviest amount of volume is for that given time frame. So the heaviest amount of volume for the entire month has been up here. And it makes sense because most people missed out on this first rally. So then they come in here and they buy highs. And then, of course, you have sellers always trying to sell highs. And then your value area is going to be down here. So that's value area low, value area high up here. Value areas 70% of the volume. You could also put the numbers up if you want. That will give you deltas on the month as well. So that's values. And then down here, there is 10.5 bill on the sell side, 11.8 on the bid. So there is a bullish delta in this profile. Just means there's more buying volume than selling volume in these bars, or nodes is the correct term for them. Yeah, it's just a visible range and fix. So S&P's back to up on the day high that quick. Sparkcoin did make that low, but no breakdown, no continuation yet. But we're gonna need to see the moves start to happen pretty soon, or it's gonna be a wash. Going to be a wash. Now it's kind of just mid-range. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 30-minute candles that are in a big range. 69.25 up to 69.47. So about a 22-point range. And you're right smack in the middle of it. On the S&P, you did make a lower low. So that feels good. Want to see that continue. That's the wrong low anyways. It's supposed to be this low. Got buyers on the low end of this range, sellers on the top end. The repricing will happen after you get that exhaustion. When you trade in a range like this, that's the market saying, yeah, Fartcoin is worth about 40 cents. For now. I lose 2% with 1% stop loss when it spiked. Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. You don't want to be losing lots of money on stops. Price prediction is impossible. We can't predict it even if we want to. Even if we look at a million indicators that say you should be short something, we are still going to get stopped out, right? Because price is static. It's constantly changing. You have new data every second, every day. It's always fluctuating, changing. Biases are shifting, narratives are being made. Like, it's easy to look at a chart in hindsight and say this, this, and this, right? It's in the moment. Normally speaking, if I am specifically looking for a non-farm payroll print to put a trade on, which I used to do a lot more back in the early days of the YouTube channel, then I would be looking to trade non-farm. But if I'm looking to trade the weekly range, which is what I've slowed down to mostly or mainly doing now, I would much rather have a trade on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday for the weekly range expansion. So if I'm short, for instance, Bitcoin on Tuesday, I want to be still holding that short by Friday. Because if I'm right, then I'm not stopped out. And I'm right all week. So I think you guys would do better if you traded less and tried to position your trades around a weekly expansion and not so much every single day, because every single day is chaotic. It is very chaotic. Every single day. Right? And then today, like, you're an inside day. Oh, putting a long in right here ain't the best trade. It is where yesterday closed, but yesterday's low would be a better long. Unfortunately, price isn't trading near yesterday's low. And if it gets down there around 4 o'clock today, for instance, then I wouldn't even want to be buying it. I'm just saying, like, if you looked at it in that aspect and position yourself around those upper swing highs and position yourself long around swing lows, you'll just do better. But you're not going to win every one. If you're trying to place trades around every single open, that's 3 opens per day, 7 days a week, you're going to be taking a lot of trades. So I only started trading this way because I go live every day. So every day I try to put a trade on, right? But every day, obviously, I'm not going to win. So yeah, it just makes it a lot. I don't have the data yet, but I will at the end of this year. Last year, I wasn't live every single day for the entire year. So I won't have a good data set on trading more versus trading less, what does better. But just from the time that I've been doing it, my P&L has slowed down because I'm getting stopped out more frequently than I used to, because I'm trying to put a trade on every single day. So Yeah, there's that, right? There's that. I know for 100% certainty that I cannot predict not even 1 second out in time of what price is going to do. So I have no edge by trading every single day. The edge is in trying to find those good reversal points or continuation points midweek. But it's late, right? This whole rant was just for me to say this. Like, I used to, unless it was specifically just going to be a J trade scalp for Friday for NFP, I wouldn't even be putting a trade on today. It's Friday. The weekly range is already done pretty much what it's going to do. We know that Saturdays and Sundays price action is usually even tighter than what you get on Friday. So basically, if we were to close the day anywhere between today's high and low, you can go ahead and assume Sunday or Saturday will be tighter than that in terms of a price range. So today you've got huge volumes, or not huge, but more than you will have tomorrow and Sunday, and you're an inside day. You're not expanding. We're not trending. It's on the trending days that's where we make the money. We don't make money in chop slop unless you are specifically trading those ranges. Unless that is your strategy and the strategy that you are implementing. In that scenario, you're not taking profits, moving stops, you're getting out, right? You're taking long, you're closing long. Then you're looking for short, then you're closing short, right? Once again, much easier said than done in hindsight, because we don't know that this candle is going to touch that high. And we don't know that this candle is going to touch that low. And because of that, it's impossible for us to get every trade right. So 1% stop losses are good stop losses, especially if you are trying to trade every single day. At the beginning of the market, it takes time for the volume to go through. Like the S&P 500 is broken down outside of that 5-minute or 30-minute candle range. So now you're starting to see a trend take place. Not on Fartcoin yet, but still it is on this. But that's only on that small time frame. Okay, now you are seeing a trending move take place on this time frame. But if you go out even further, not really trending, because yesterday's low is all the way down here. So if you were taking a trade on the S&P 500 today and the market's choppy under this high, it's like, what do you do with this? You know what I mean? What are you going to do while price is up in here? Because you don't know that it's going to continue, and you don't know that it's going to fall. You don't know what it's going to do. We try to line the strategy up with objective levels and with ranged narratives or order flow. Order flow is the narrative for the weekly range. It's what we try to dictate, what we try to determine when we go into these trades. So by looking at it on an inside week basis only, we do kind of would rather be shorting Fartcoin because it is, trending lower as you set the high and then you set a fresh weekly low right here. And then what happened after you made this fresh weekly low? You traded up, you traded down, and then you broke down and made another fresh weekly low. So you have 1 week high, 2 week high, 1 week low, 2 week low, 3 week low, 4 week low. So you have more weekly lows than highs, therefore order flow for the week has been bearish, right? Okay, so we know that. So we want to look for that to continue. So we want to set our trades up around that narrative. Order flow has been bearish for the week. So we want to go look for that best place in that weekly range to put a position on to basically make money if it continues to do that. But what if it don't? That's what the 1% stop is for. Because if it don't, if it starts going back up or just says, hey, this will be the week low, then you're going to eat a stop. So we can become really good price analysts, but we will never, ever be able to predict what price will do. Once people understand that, I think they do better as a trader, because then they stop trying to take those all-in bets. It's going to go up. Why? Because your favorite indicator says it is? Like, no. Those are the trades that I want to get people away from, because you can be a solid trader, a solid risk manager, and a solid price action analyst. And combining all three of those things, you will be a solid trader in the future. And it's over time your big wins, because you will get big wins when you trade in this way, in this style, in this manner. Try to trade with the momentum, with the order flow. You will hit big winners if that order flow and momentum continues. And we do know that in price or in trading, trends do continue. But when you're trying to do longer term trades, it gets a little bit much different. And so the smaller you go down in time, the harder that becomes. Just because the week has been making fresh week lows all week long, it does not mean it will continue to do so on Thursday or Friday. Very choppy stuff is going to annihilate traders. So looks like it failed, right? You spent almost an hour, or an hour trading above yesterday's high. Then on the last 30 minutes of, 2 hours, the last 30 minutes of that 2 hour period, you did get that trending move, that breakdown move. So it does look like it's going to continue. And then you get this right back up there. Right back up there. Look at the cash market. The cash market is an up day. You were a red day for a brief moment. Now you are an up day again. Look at the VIX. So what do you think is going to happen to that Pingu short? It ain't going to work. It isn't going to work. Most likely, they're running it up. They're going to break it up. The S&P is going to close on a strong day, or it's going to be choppy all day and close out like this, right? But they had the momentum there for a fleeting moment to break it down. For a fleeting moment, they had that momentum. Yeah, this is what kills us usually. So if you are putting on many trades per week, you're going to have to deal with this kind of garbage. This is why if I'm going to have to look for trades every single day, I'm going to split my normal risk of $100, because I'm risking $100 for a daily directional bias in the hopes that I will make 300 if I'm right on that directional bias. So I split the risk up $30, $30, $30. That's 3 times I can trade in a day, and I'm just under my max loss of $100. If I take 3 entries and I'm not making money, an hour later or 2 hours later, then I'm going to be wrong on directional bias. And it is not working out for me, because I know with my data, when I take these trades at objective levels with everything that I know, usually when I'm right pretty quick. I'm right on the upside, and we get a trend or a day expanding in the upside direction, and boom, boom, within 2 hours, we're hitting profit targets, we're done, we're out. And when I'm wrong, the opposite occurs. So I don't want to keep forcing money. I don't want to keep giving the market money, especially when my analysis and my bias tell me to do this. So I have done that, and price is not doing that. That is what separates the winners from the losers. The losers are the people that still try to put trades on because they still think that they're going to be able to dictate that direction, or they cope themselves into taking more entries because for whatever reason, right? That's when you see P&L destruction that you can't even fix. So focus on the process, focus on that, and then keep that risk tight, and you will do better. And definitely have a daily max loss, because there are going to be days where everything tells you to do this and the market just does the opposite. And then it makes it so much easier because you're not giving back that money. So I take 3 losses today. You can chalk that first Pingu stop up as a stop, right? Go ahead and count it. Then I took 2 stops on Fartcoin. Boom, boom. There's my 3. I am not putting on another trade today, because I was right on Zcash and I made $834. So if I keep trying to put trades on here when clearly the market isn't doing anything, not what I want it to do or what anybody wants it to do, it's still sideways. Not going to give this money back today. It ain't going to happen. I'll give a little bit of it back, because if I do end up being right, this will make $300. It's a beautiful thing. It's when you start trying to predict price, that's when you're going to run into trouble. So like yesterday or Tuesday, when one of the people in the chat was saying you should try blank, it's like, no, I shouldn't, because I know I do good over time. As long as I don't trade on tilt or try to predict market direction, I do just fine. By insinuating that I can add another indicator or whatever it was to what I already do will make me better is false. It's not true, because whatever indicator or candle, whatever you use to help you take trades, it's still not going to be able to tell you what price will do 100% of the time. Certain things work better for certain people, so I'm not against anybody trying what they want to try. But I'm set in my way. Like, you couldn't change the way that I do things now for anything, because I make money. And I know I do long term, so there's no need to change anything that I'm doing. Now, if that stops, then obviously I will change the way I'm doing things. I will have to. I will have to adapt, or I will be priced out of the market. You know what I mean? That happens. Some things used to work that don't work anymore. For instance, we had an edge last year where we would just literally fade Tuesday 9:30. Whatever the market was doing, on Tuesday at 9:30, fade that, because last year a high percentage of the Tuesdays ended up making the weekly high or the weekly low. And that's where we would get in. Boom, we would jump on. The market was making fresh weekly lows on Tuesday, we would buy it. And that was the strategy, literally. Just buy the low, because the data's good that it could be the weekly low. That didn't work at all this year. Didn't work at all. So we stopped doing that. Yeah, things will get priced out of the market. So whatever indicator you're using to give you an edge right now, if it's a good edge, it won't last for long. It will be priced out. Yeah, I mean, the S&P is making fresh highs right now. Right now, you're going back up to the high. So look at the VIX. We did get what we wanted to see on the VIX. That's good for bullish Bitcoin biases. Not necessarily going to help you make money, but at least if the VIX is back to heading in the right direction, which is down, that's going to make Bitcoin longs a little bit easier next week. So, I mean, where it is now is even better, because it went from being not only looking like it was going to be a solid breakout, it's back to bearish. So this would be a swing high failure pattern. A great close would be if it could close back under here this week, today. If that happens next week, as long as the VIX is trading under 1585, I would be looking to buy swing lows on risk and on Bitcoin. But we'll see how it closes the day. That's the most important. It isn't what it's doing intraday. It matters how it closes, how it finishes out the day. So many times we've seen the market be bearish in the morning and then up huge on the day, and vice versa, right? Be up huge on the day and then end bearish. We could have been a little bit better on that entry. So this is a learning example for us, me included. This is where I wanted to be long from, to hedge off that Pingu short. Now if we go intra 4 hour and look, we could have literally put that long on right there. It's in hindsight, I get it, right? It's in hindsight, I get it. However, I knew I wanted to put the long on there. I chased price, right? I felt like when it was being made up here that it wasn't going to come down here. So that caused me to chase that entry higher than I originally wanted to. Therefore, I got stopped, then chased it again and got stopped again. Instead of just wait for price to do what you want it to do, which is make that low or at least touch it and reverse off of it. So right here, it's pretty volatile, but waiting on the close, right? Don't freak out on wicks. Wait on the close, 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 open, close, higher. You see it's starting to put the higher lows in now. So just by simply waiting for that sniper entry to take place, the entry we should have waited on. So this trade could have been profitable. Maybe. I don't know that it will, right? In the future, That's if this continues for the rest of the day, or just, gets a little bit higher into our profit target. I should have literally waited for that level to be tagged. And if it doesn't get tagged, you don't trade, right? Because, yeah, you can't predict what price will do. So at least wait for it to happen, then throw the order out there. Even then, we could have simply mitigated the risk by that low. So even if we got over our skis and jumped in a little too early, because that's human nature, right? You're going to get in too early, too late. It's going to happen. We could have simply got long, stop, and would have been safe up to this point. So I ate 3 losses today, 3 stops. I ate 3 stops on Tuesday too. So this week wasn't a good week for the public live streams, but just played wrong. That's the human in me. Should have just waited for what I was originally wanting to do anyway, but it would have been safer than just randomly trying to just spot where it might stop going down. Just something to take into the future. If you're looking for a level to put an entry, wait for that level. Because until that happens, you're not getting the signal. This wasn't anything anyways. It was this that would have prompted the bid. We still don't know that it's going to have an upside expansion because that POC is up there. But at this point, I wouldn't be throwing the short on because the short was a fake out. The short was a fake out. The short was a fake out. That's a midpoint. So now it looks like these things are going up today. And look at ETH. Looked good for the shorts early. And then it just made a fresh day low and reversed. It wasn't an easy reversal because you closed the 30-minute candle back above the low and then traded all the way back down to the low before then reversing. And now look at it. Bitcoin, it's going up. So remember, if you are short with me from, we got short Tuesday. What am I talking about? I ate 3 stops on Tuesday. We shorted this Tuesday. We're still in that trade. Maybe it was yesterday. It doesn't matter. The way I'm going to do this short, if this day closes above the weekly open, I will most likely just close it. Because we're going into a new week. New week, new data. New things are happening here. So things are changing. You're literally changing market structure here. You went from being weak yesterday, weak today, to being up today. Remember I said it would be nice if this could have closed up and made that hammer. You do have that hammer now. This would be called a tweezer bottom if you were just looking at, all the different candlestick names out there. This is a bullish setup if it can stay like this. So I imagine people will be buying daily support or the December open over the weekend, depending on if this has the same look over the weekend or not. And ZE Cash still not trending. Yeah, you had a big, huge downtrend move yesterday. I could expect a few sideways days. We wanted to see it break under this and close under it. There's 28 minutes left on the close. It backed up off those levels. So if you're short Zcash, beware, it might want to push a little deeper over the weekend. Zcash moves over the weekend. This is a Saturday morning right here. That happened at 3 a.m. Saturday morning. So Zcash can be very volatile over the weekend. The short doesn't work out for you today. If you shorted around this area, then you might want to think about taking profits and putting your stop to break even. There's a slight chance you're going to be stopped out of that. Daily 21 retests and failures will prompt new short setups on Zcash. And XMR is not a short. It hasn't been a short since it broke out. It isn't one yet. If you would have shorted this any time this morning, because you had plenty of time to do it, it looks like you're about to get stopped out. It's not a great look. Yeah, I make mistakes too, guys. Mistakes are gonna happen. Small losses, though, keep me in check. And try not to trade so much on Friday. Next Friday, if there's no news, then clearly putting on positions late week, not the best trading idea. Because you're probably not going to see any continuation on a big scale, unless some kind of big, huge bullish news comes out. But S&P looks like it's about to break out in a hard way. A dollar put in quite a bit of time trying to make, and it did ultimately make fresh day highs. So the dollar is still trending up on the week. Oil is a big bullish engulfing weekly candle. I would expect that to close like that today. It's a big boy. Tariff ruling today, 10 o'clock. Yeah, that probably had something to do with the bullish news, like the reversal. I would assume it did. I forgot about it, but it doesn't really matter. The setup that I wanted to work didn't. So it doesn't really matter about the news. It's fun to know what happened. Let's see what he says. The U.S. Supreme Court did not issue a ruling on the major case challenging the legality of President Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs. This was highly anticipated opinion day for the court, with markets, businesses, and traders bracing for a potential decision that could invalidate many of the tariffs imposed under the International Energy Economic Powers Act of 1977. Lower courts, including the Court of International Trade and Federal Circuit, had already ruled in 2025 that Trump's use of IEEPA to impose these broad Liberation Day tariffs on imports for most trading partners, plus targeted ones in China, Canada, Mexico, etc., citing trade deficits, fentanyl, national emergencies, exceeded presidential authority. That's funny. A court ruling that what a president is trying to do exceeds his authority. That's kind of exceeding their authority, isn't it? But anyways, as tariffs are traditionally a congressional power. Gotcha. So Congress should have been the one to make it. Whatever. Two-party system, you get stupid stuff like this. Key developments today. The court released only one unrelated opinion this morning and held back on the tariffs. No decision was announced, meaning the tariffs remain in full effect under the current stay. The court could issue the ruling on any future opinion day, potentially as soon as next week during the argument session starting January 12th through the 14th or later in January. They don't preview which cases will drop and when. And then broader context and stakes for that. If, when ruled against, the administration widely seen as likely with the prediction markets like Polymarket showing low odds for full upholding, could lead to a 150 billion in potential refunds to importers. I wonder if the court is going to make the billions of Minnesota fraud get repaid back via the Court of International Trade. Lower import costs, inflation relief, and fiscal hit to the government. Yeah, because why allow physical goodness to happen? Doesn't fit with the courts. Is this a Supreme Court ruling? I think it is. The Supreme Court is mostly bipartisan. Yeah, it doesn't say. I think it is, though. Opinion Day is for the Supreme Court. Yeah, and even though we think we know what the ruling will be and how the markets will respond, we just don't. We don't know how the markets are going to respond to the ruling. We don't know what Trump will do. Trump is a wild card. No one can ever predict accurately what he will do. Not even his speech writers. They must have the shittiest job in the world trying to write a speech for a man that usually goes off card. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think that the non-ruling was what caused the S&P to be bullish. Probably not. It was probably people buying support, if I had to make a guess. Because it was either going to go up or down, right? It was either going to go up or go down. Yeah, it failed to go down. So buyers, you even have heavy deltas up here. Fartcoin, same thing. Bullish deltas all morning. Prices slowly grinding higher. You've got another 4-hour bullish engulfing. That's 2 in a row. Very choppy stuff. Very choppy stuff. Trend trading works really good when you stay under specific levels. It does really bad when the levels are megaphoning. But when the market trades like this, it makes it difficult to put trades on at old key swings because of that. Garbage. Boss, that entry for Fartcoin was spot on. Yeah, it would have been had we stuck with it. And we still, like I said, just because it looks okay right now doesn't mean it will be. Doesn't mean it will be later on. It feels like it will be as it's getting, it's 10:40 in the morning. It's a Friday. You're probably going to see a lot of boring sideways price action today. I mean, this is ugly, right? Very, very ugly. When we get the breakdowns or when we're long and we get the breakouts, we want to see that continue. We don't want to see full-on reversals. But since that happens, we must prepare for that to happen. And the only way we can do that is with stops. It beats me why this channel is always having this number of viewers. I would say it probably has something to do with my voice, and I don't know. Yeah, it's weird, but it is fine with me, really. I'm fine with it being small. I'm fine with it being small, man. To be honest with you, I don't know how I'd react to like 12, 14, 1500 live people every morning. I lose sight of the chat now. Could you imagine if the chat was going just scrolling? Yeah. I like to keep it. To be honest with you, a small audience is a better audience. Not in terms of if you're trying to be a professional YouTuber, it would really suck. Like, I've been doing this for 5 years, so if I was trying to make a living being a YouTuber, I am failing at my job. Dramatically. I make like $100 a month from YouTube. Failing dramatically. But I truly do believe that anybody can do this, and most people are fighting against themselves, right? They're doing the wrong things, and it just takes a little bit of, you know, walking them through it. And then, like, I have one new member that just signed up to be in the Discord this month, and is already pretty much going to be able to take what he knows for the rest of his life and outperform. I'm not going to say he's going to be able to outperform the S&P, but he's already, like, it's a very easy system to kind of get. And, you know, as long as you're doing your part and keeping risk tight and things like that, you will nail some good ones. You're going to nail some good ones. And those good ones are going to be the ones that make your whole year, or that take your P&L from a losing, you know, solid down grind into more of a straight line, and then slowly over time you will see it start to build back in the upward direction. That's what I'm trying to do, is turn it around for people that have not been able to do it with other people or for themselves. So I'm fine with the small audience. I'm good with it. ETH bouncing off the week open. So there's still dramatic amounts of resistance that these things are going to have to go through today. Just because our trade didn't work doesn't mean that the long traders' trades are going to work either. I don't have a bearish bias on Bitcoin right now. I don't want people to think because I am holding a short that I am bearish. I am not. So I own Bitcoin a lot more than what I have on short right now. So if you took, you know, $500 times 20, that would be my position size that I have short on Bitcoin. So 500 times 20, that's $10,000. So I own a lot more Bitcoin than that. I have a lot more than that in cold storage. So by being short $10,000 means that it eventually, well, it wouldn't, but if I would have taken it with a bigger position, then eventually being short with what I'm losing in the long portfolio would become parity between what I'm losing or making on the short side. So by me shorting futures, I'm only trying to hedge off the downside risk to my long only Bitcoin holdings. So it's mostly just for a scalp. I have already enough put premium to do that. So if Bitcoin is going to break down, the money that I'll make on the put premium, I will just put it back in Bitcoin at the end of the year, right? So I will have essentially lost nothing, even if Bitcoin goes down to $2 a coin. That's all I was trying to do with that. Now, as far as intraday trades that I do normally, short, long, short, long, short, long, my bias changes a lot because I'm trying to trade every day. That money that I make doing that is what I use to pay my bills. So with this week's platform, you used to be able to trade Bitcoin coin M futures. So like right here, it says USDT/M futures. That means my trades are settled in USDT. When I first went over to use this platform, I did it because they offered the coin M. If your platform has that, that's how you should be trading Bitcoin. Not with USDT or with US dollars. Especially if you are a profitable trader over time. So if you make more withdrawals than you do buying crypto, then you should be trading with Coin M. Now, it is very simple for me to take whatever USDT I make and then just convert it to Bitcoin, because they also offer spot. And because they offer spot and futures, that's why they eliminated the Coin M. It was the whole side of a futures platform they didn't have to track and all this. It just made it easier for them, because you're not going to pay a whole lot, but you will pay some in fees to transfer the tether back to Bitcoin. But yeah, I mean, this, and the puts are going to pay me in dollars. The Bitcoin that I have now came from the short in 2022, because I put that short on in KuCoin and the Coin M, and that short ended up being a big one. So I just transferred all that Bitcoin to cold storage. If you could short that, then if you can trade profitably, if you trade on a Coin M, then your trades are settled in Bitcoin. And your Bitcoin position is a long position. You see what I'm saying? For like taxes and all, you can settle that trade in Bitcoin, then it doesn't really matter. You get taxed when you sell the Bitcoin. Not in every country, but in the US. Your unrealized gains are not taxed. So you could just, in theory, build up a large position of Bitcoin and never, ever buy any. That's what really attracted me to these platforms to begin with. But I have not had many problems with weeks. I withdraw often, and I've never had any withdrawal not go through or anything like that. But yeah, I'm bringing this all up because one of my guys at Weeks is going to do something else, and he said I guess they're going to open another exchange or something, and that exchange is going to offer gold and silver trading with Tether, I guess, or something. I'll keep y'all up to date whenever that's off and running. I will let you guys know if you want. I'm sure there will be a link in the description at some point. But yeah, I'm not going to close this trade back to up here unless today closes strongly. And the reason is because as long as I want to hold a short on just in case it does break down, because there is still that risk out there. There is still that risk that can happen, even though I don't think it will, and I'm sure banks have been accumulating, and there's a few other reasons why I don't have a macro bearish bias on Bitcoin right now, like I did back in 2022, because the things are just much different now. Everything is different. So, but if you do have a bearish bias, well, the best short to put on since November was December's high. So it just makes sense that short is up there. If we close strongly today, I will probably just get out of this instead of eating the full loss, because I don't think it would take much time or many days for it to get back up here. I mean, we're only really 1 day's range away, right? If you look at where the entry is, you can start to see why the entry was there, right? So really and truly, if we're closing back inside of this day's range, another one really good day could make it get all the way back up to here. So we're not far off the December high. So this was very good and constructive for Bitcoin for me on the near term. Last 2 weeks, I like what it did. I wish it would have broken out strongly above this, or at a bare minimum grinded above it. But the fact that it did reject and give you a little bit of downside continuation, if it can't close above yesterday's high, then I'll stay in it. But if it does, then I'm going to probably get out. Because it's Tether anyways. I'm not adding to my Bitcoin long portfolio or anything like that. But I could just simply take the spot that I have and convert it to Bitcoin by buying Bitcoin on chain with Tether and then sending that Bitcoin to cold storage. So I probably won't change exchanges myself, but I will provide a link for anybody that wants to trade gold and silver. I can trade gold and silver already with my futures account, so I don't need to trade gold and silver with Tether. But for smaller margined people, for people that can't afford the margin on a gold or silver's futures contract, maybe you could look into doing something like that. Just make sure you check your countries and state guidelines and all that stuff. And every trade is a taxable event, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Other than that, there really isn't Zcash, the Zcash trade. So let's see that one real quick. You can see where my entry is short. I migrated the position lower today. I did add to the short today when it was trading up around the day high. So that brought my cost basis down a little bit, but I'm more than okay holding it up here. And it's a very small position. The good thing about this is simple. If this has a severe breakdown, because many people are mass exiting Zcash, then this position will pay. But we will add to it. If it wants to continue making lower highs and lower lows as the days go by, we will continue lowering our cost basis and taking profits as we go and build this up much nicer. It's a new year, so I had to do some things. I took some money out, did some things, so I'm trading with a very small amount of money right now. So I will have to be a little bit cautious and watch that P&L. So we probably won't be doing many hedge style trades here in the coming weeks until we get this portfolio built up enough to where we can start doing that again. Because hedge style trading can really mess you up. Like I said, I took 2 losses on FART. 1 loss on Pingu. That's max loss. Can't take any more today. Period. So all I can do really is just set in these 2 positions today. Maybe we'll put on a new trade tomorrow, depending on how things shake out today. Because things are still very choppy. I would want to assume if I was still trading, but I'm not today, that these lows will be protected. But you still have resistance up here, so be careful being a buyer today. Be careful being a seller. And then if you guys have any assets you want me to take a look at, I will do so because I'm pretty much done. TLT, once again, needs to get above these 2 weekly highs. Have to do that. And it needs to do it soon. Otherwise, you should already be out of this to minimize that loss. As far as the sectors go, your consumer discretionaries is back on all-time highs. This is your all-time high right here. I'll just put it there. You're back there again. Your technology sector, let me get you down there. Oh, I got you there. All right, technology sector still holding support down here. Today looks a little bit less like it wants to break back to the upside, but this range is so very tight. Very, very tight. Longer term, the tech sector is building in a triangle, and triangles can break either direction. Either direction. You can see how you're building in that wedge here, the tight wedge. I don't know if you can see that. Purple lines are hard to see on my monitor. Let's make them brighter. There, very tight wedge. I'd say I have more of a near-term bullish bias on it, but if it breaks down to the downside, that might be something to take into account. But your financials are still ripping to the upside. That was your all-time high. You broke out, you retested it, held, you came back in and tested it again. So that was annoying for these longs in here. And right back up. Now you're putting in what looks like to be a bull flag. So I would assume, as long as these things stay structured like this, the markets overall will be just fine. Risk markets, that is. And then finally, let's go look at our ratios to give us an idea how people positioned this week. So first off, XLP, XLY, we want to look at this on weekly. Oh, sorry, tech versus XLP. Looks good, looks constructive. I'm glad that it isn't making fresh weekly lows down in here. So this looks a little bit more constructive. Still would be looked at from some short sellers as a bearish pullback, but time will tell. This is the one that has me a little bit concerned right now. You are back down to the lows here. So what I don't want to see is a breakdown today. That would be pretty bad. Next week will be vitally important. If it can hold that or not. For the growth versus value, I think this could put weight on the S&P 500 if this cuts loose to the downside. And then tech versus energy, you're having a big day on oil today. So that is affecting it yesterday, I guess, more than today. That's weird. Oil is literally a gigantic bullish weekly candle. That's the problem. I'm looking at oil on the week and not the day. Here's your oil chart. Big bullish engulfing. So people will have a bullish bias on oil as low as 57.14 next week. However, longer term, this could be another selling opportunity next week. All right, there was a bullish engulfing right there. Broke out above multi-week highs. Didn't close above them, but still next week it got puked. Another bullish engulfing here. Slowly puked. So it is still just a lower high on the larger time frame, but you are making fresh 3-week highs, and that will have near-term traders bullish next week, all the way down to there. I doubt people would still be looking to buy all the way down to there, but we'll see. Well, that's actually not that far from today. So nice bullish rip yesterday, upside continuation today. Midpoint check held. You're seeing that rip continue. I wouldn't be shorting oil today. But anyways, back to the sectors. Or sorry, not sectors. Ratios. Well, we want this chart grinding up, not down. You can see the impulse leg down. Many weeks of upside, and now you're heading back down. So it does look like the sellers did knock it off. And it's right back down to the weekly open. Not great there. These are looked at for like inflation or recession, right? They're like recession indicators or whatnot. So there are a few things that suggest people are positioning for a potential recession. And a recession could really hurt Bitcoin growth. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that. But yeah, so still a lot of resistance up here, but this near-term price action looks really good for the rest of the day. And then Alex says, because YouTube is a lot of work, and if someone wants to do it for a living, they will input huge hours into it just to make a living, which would make zero sense for someone who is yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, there are things that I could do that would make it better, probably. I guess, yeah. I'm just not that concerned with it. Yeah. All right. Is SCOTUS? It is a SCOTUS ruling. Gotcha. There was 10 a.m. news as well. Didn't really go anywhere, though. It's not the size that matters. That's what she said. And then Brandon, what's up, buddy? You still have to pay taxes on your Bitcoin US dominated gains, even if you're trading Bitcoin and taking profits in Bitcoin. There you go. From a money manager. All right, so you still got to pay taxes on that. Good to know. All right. Nothing? Nobody wants to look at anything? I don't think there's much. I mean, let me go see real quick over here if anything is doing. Yeah, that still is doing nothing. Yeah, the trade desk is failing because of its PE ratio is better at 36 bucks. So it couldn't keep that bullish momentum. It only had 1 day of momentum. I want to see multiple days of momentum. Home Depot is ginormous head and shoulders. Kind of. UNH still not finding support, which is odd. I thought it would. I mean, it is on the monthly. But what's his name fund took a large position in UNH when it broke down through here. I mean, longer term, it's a constructive pattern. You've got a big gap down there that people might want to still try to get filled, but you don't have to fill it. Might not fill it. O'Reilly has found a near-term bottom. That's a good bullish momentous move there today. So have we found a low on O'Reilly? Maybe. Maybe. Big bullish engulfing week this week. Yeah, I could be a buyer on O'Reilly if it can hold last week's open, 89.40. I wouldn't want to see that. I would actually rather be a buyer at like 90.92. They got earnings coming up pretty soon. Be careful with that if you're trading options. But O'Reilly is a pretty good company to invest in. It's not a growth company, but they do. The chart performs really good. And there's still a lot of cars on the road, so until that ceases to be the case, I don't see that thing crashing. It will crash if we go into recession, but everything will. I don't see a recession on anytime soon. Like, I don't think we would be this year. Circle just can't get anything going. This is going to be because of Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin's been dead since December, so is everything that is related to Bitcoin. I don't know Circle's MO is. I don't own any of this company, but I mean, 280, you're off a lot. That's usually not a great sign, but if it's because of Bitcoin, 72%. Ugh. That's on sale, maybe. Joby is a taxi helicopter drone / thing company. which I see a future for, to be honest with you, if they can get the costs on par with an Uber. So what I mean by that is, if these things get clearance with a legitimate pilot and things like that, if I had to go, say, fly to Miami because I had to go to the hospital for somebody or something, then I don't want to rent a car, right? I could just, I don't know. I don't know. I could take a Joby helicopter from the airport to the hospital and then be picked up from the hospital, taken back to the airport. If you could get the fees down to where that would be on par with an Uber ride or even close to, I can see real growth into something like this. Simply because if it's going to cost me $20 to Uber from the hospital to the airport, and it will cost me $30 to take a Joby, that's going to cut time down by like 3/4, where it might take 30 minutes in an Uber ride, whereas in a Joby ride, it could take 5. I pay the extra $10 for that. Get out of traffic. Yeah. Be there in no time. So I do see business for this. I do see a future for this. My main problem is the chart. And they also do drones. I don't know if they have any military contracts. You could look into something that would be very easy to see or find out. But as far as the chart's concerned, if it can continue to hold 1270 as support, I could be a buyer for the long-term hold. It's cheap enough to where, I'm not saying you want to buy 10,000 shares of it. Maybe you do. Maybe you're rich. I don't know. But I do see this being something in 20 years. Like it'll be way less than 20 years, but something like this could really disrupt. Yeah. Could. It's whether or not people want to do it or not. It's got to be adopted, all that. But still, that's what Joby's on watch for. Yeah, that's pretty much the top ones that I've been looking at. Glass House. GLASF. GLASF. Glass House. This is an OTC stock? Wow, this is a very volatile stock. It's a cheapie. It looks really good. Last month was good for Glass House. Given this near-term structure, I would want to see that continue. Let's go in and see if we can find out why. I mean, I can see the bid. I can see why they bought here. And then I can see why they bought here. I can't see why they bought there, but they did. It's still higher low. Higher lows are good, especially if you're making higher highs on the back end. That's called a tailwind. No, weekly. Yeah, okay, so worst case scenario, I could potentially be a buyer on this if it holds $7. That's the weekly 50 EMA. If this is going to continue to have bullish momentum, I would want to see the buyers defend $7. If you can defend $7, I mean, dude, it looks like you're getting ready to see another breakout. It's been trading literally sideways AF for the last 4 weeks. So buyers are coming up here, snatching it up at 853, it looks like. But I think the better long-term buy would be a 50 EMA moving average test. It might not get down there. So maybe you could work out something like where you pick up a few at 853 and then double down at 7 and then set the stop to like 6 or something like that, right? I would want to see them defend December's low at a bare minimum. I want to see that higher low, whether it's in January, February, or March, doesn't really matter. I just want to see that higher low. And then I could make the argument to pick some shares up. It looks really good. Shitload of resistance just ahead of you. Nobody likes it at 10. All right? They love it at 7. They hate it at 10. So make that with what you will. Obviously, in the future, this could all fall apart. That's one bad thing about stocks. At least with Bitcoin, you know what you're buying. You know what you're going to get, right? With stocks, you gotta count on other people controlling the money, making right decisions, investing, yeah, all that stuff. Marketing. What are their bottom lines? Are they productive? Are they profitable? That's a huge thing with, especially, this is OTC though, so I doubt it's being accumulated on mass scale. So be careful with OTC. OTC means not great. You looked at this last one, it was 560. Yeah, I can see that it's moving higher. I can see that 550. I mean, I don't remember when we looked at it, but I would have told you back then, as long as you're holding monthly support, you could be a buyer. Right? Midpoint checks of previous month's ranges, I would want to see at a bare minimum a 786. So maybe moving forward, your fib would be different slightly. 786 is around 672. Yeah, the thing about OTC is they're very, very speculative, very wild. So be careful. Make sure your risk is situated. They're leading the wholesaler of cannabis in Canada. Gotcha. I remember the cannabis companies. Whatever happened to what was it? CC something and what was the other big mover? Tilray. I have not looked. TLRY. Jeez, yeah, man, how they fell off. I remember trading this thing when it was literally moonshotting. It wasn't trading at thousands. It was trading at like 287. Like it was all over the place. And then CCM, I think, was the other one. It made it up to like 50, 60. Yeah, it's been reverse split once, so that would suck. Not doing as good as it did back when weed stocks were on fire. But Glass F looks constructive and okay. Was it CCM? No. I don't even remember what it was. Don't even remember the ticker. GDP is expected to go higher. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to think about recession when GDP is going up. All right. Cheers. They're leading the wholesale area in there. That's good. Their price to produce is coming down each year. Their average cost to produce a pound of cannabis is $135. Average sale is $350. That's not bad. That's pretty good margins there. Yeah, the gas is gone. I'll fill it in a minute. You bought in at 380, 420, and at 510. You're doing fine. You're doing good. I would probably just chill with that. I don't think I would continue to raise my cost basis while it's rejecting $10. Now, with that being said, it's your money. I would chill right there. I don't think I would want to bring my cost basis up any higher than where you've got it. Looks good. Yeah, you had a really good month last month. A really good month. So let's see if that bullish demand can stay intact. This was probably news. Since all of that entire monthly was dealt in one day, I would have to assume that was news. Yeah, it doesn't look like it has enough volumes to be a good like day trading stock. It isn't. It doesn't have good volumes at all. Just, yeah, I would chill right where you're at. You're holding at 550, maybe a little bit out. Your average would probably be a little bit under that. Not bad. 520, sorry. Not bad. Not bad. I like it. They're the Budweiser of cannabis. Tilray is trash, yeah. Check out Cureleaf or True Leave. I don't know those tickers. Yeah, I don't know those tickers. TSX. OTC. Another OTC. This might not be the right ticker. I don't know. I imagine there's money to make if they're producing 150 per and selling them for 3. That's a pretty good. That's a 50% margin. That's not bad. So it'll just be, can they keep costs down, employing people and advertising revenues? As long as they can keep costs down and keep high margins, it could be a good investment. The cannabis, I don't think cannabis is ever going anywhere. Ever. I mean, they've already legalized it in some U.S. states. They probably won't legalize it everywhere until the federal government does. But like, if the federal government was to do something like that, that one you own would probably go to the moon. All right. New biggest upside from this new legislation being passed since they have the most retail stores. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Retail stores can take tax deductions. They're immediately going to have a huge refund. I can run a cannabis brand in CA, which is California, so I have some insight into their wholesale numbers. Also have average cost of 100 for Zcash, 50 coins. For now, that's a good place to be. So okay, so Zcash is, what was the name of that company? So they are planning on okay, so let me just Bootstrap. So if Bootstrap is the main people now, you're going to be wanting to see what they have to say about all this. The chain the news caused an immediate market volatility, obviously. The Zcash Foundation has emphasized that no single organization controls the project. So that's good long term. And it's built for resilience. That's good long term. The departing devs appear committed to Zcash long term, just under new independent structure to avoid the nonprofit governance friction. So that could change in the future, right? This, by the devs all walking out, they might be, if they full on stay gone, then there's going to have to be new devs come in, because code has to be updated eventually. Bugs need to be fixed. I don't know what, like, I'm not the best guy to tell you what this could do long term. Brandon probably would have more info on that, because he understands the full workings of some of these. I don't know that he understands Zcash or what it is. But I mean, if it is a privacy coin full on, which it is, people can still find value in that, right? Value. You own 50 tokens. You're in, if you bought it low, $100, you're in good shape. My concern would be long term. So maybe don't freak out yet, but I mean, that lost significant value, but it had been choppy, right? If you held through this, then you know what your portfolio looked at $300 per. And if you were willing to hold it, then I'd say still hold it. If you start taking this low out right here and there is no bullish momentum of any sort, like if you just continue to put in lower highs and lower lows over time, that could be bad. So you just have to make a decision on, I don't see really any massive upside growth potential now because there's no devs. But obviously if Bootstrap gets new devs in there and can update the code when needed and whatnot, if people find value in Zcash, I'm not saying it's going to go to zero or anything, but it's a mass adoption thing. The more people that adopt these things, the better off they're going to do long term. It is a privacy token. This is traded on exchange. So XMR you can't buy spot XMR on Coinbase or Binance, which are two of the largest exchanges on the planet. So that's why XMR doesn't trade as technically as, say, others. But Zcash and XMR are the two most popular, as far as I'm aware of, for privacy tokens. But if it starts trending down on a long-term chart, you might want to seriously think about, scaling that back. I mean, it's not a shitload of money, but at the same time, I don't like to watch profits dwindle. I like to set in things that are trending higher. Zcash still is. Okay? You've done nothing to affect this long-term trend. I don't know what caused it to go ape bananas like it did in October. Could it be the sell-off in Bitcoin that prompted the bullish use case on Zcash? Maybe there was other news. I don't know. But if you start doing this again, you got to seriously think about, what's what. But just stay on it. Like, if the macro case is still good for these, they will still perform. XMR's chart long term looks really good. There's nothing else that you can say about it. The chart looks really good. It looks like it's about to break out. It looks like it's about to break out. And since this is not traded on, or not traded, it is traded on exchange. Don't get me wrong. The futures, I can trade futures on weeks. I'm sure futures are listed on other exchanges. So it is traded on exchange, but the spot holders, the ones that go the hard route, they're probably the ones that are controlling this mostly. And those people don't seem to be selling. Like, it built in a long-term hard floor at $100 and then exploded in value. I wouldn't want to see it give half that back. Me, myself, if I was holding this long-term, I wouldn't want to see any deep, sizable retracements. I wouldn't want to bust the trend that it has built up. But this trend was mostly because of a short squeeze or a huge inflow. And I'm not sure which. I would like to know. But I'm not a buyer all the way up here. I'm not a buyer of it up there. It could break out though soon. Last month they tried to destroy it. They couldn't. They couldn't even make a fresh month low. This month is another higher low. You got 22 days on this month. Is a higher high on its way? I have to assume so. Like, just get rid of everything and look at what it's done so far this year. It's looking okay. It's looking okay. This trend is not that parabolic. It has brutal sell-offs, but they get it right back. So maybe a fresh month low would be a bid opportunity, not this month's low. But that's what I would want to see. I would want to see a fresh month low hold. So it could get under it, and it could spend a day or two under it. I would be okay with it. But I would want to see that recaptured by day 5. And as long as that area could hold as support moving on, I could, in theory, be a buyer at 362 on the futures, just to capitalize on the growth that the token is seeing. But yeah, I mean, this looks like a lot of good inflows there. You need to see that. Hopefully Zcash doesn't start seeing a huge exodus. As long as it doesn't, I think it'll be okay, but it's hard to tell, man. This one is heavily, is more traded. I can buy this on Coinbase. It is easier to get in and out of this one on the spot side. So yeah, I wouldn't want to see it making fresh monthly lows. At that point, I'd be concerned and probably get out, or at least take profits and then look to re-enter when support is built in, when you stop making those fresh monthly lows. You just won't know that that'll ever happen in the future, right? That's the thing. We can never see the future. It would be nice if we could, but we can't. All right, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe. Make sure you trade smart. And as always, happy trading, everybody. We'll see